Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I am joined by senior from the UConn women's hockey team, Dani Fox. Dani is finishing up her UConn degree right now, but I just want to welcome Dani to the podcast. And how's everything going?
First off, I want to say thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. And how's everything going for yourself, both on and off the ice, since the season ended a few weeks ago?
Honestly, everything's been going pretty well for me. I've really just been doing school, going to classes, and really just like working out. It's definitely been pretty nice to have like time to myself to just kind of like chill and relax, especially now that the season's over.
Yeah, and obviously the weather's starting to get nicer as well, so that must be good for yourself.
Yeah, we just came back from Florida. We went for like 4 or 5 days, so it was fun.
Nice, nice. Did you just do anything, did you do anything, or just relax there? Is my question.
Honestly, we kind of just like relaxed, hung out by the beach. It was nice. It was needed.
Yes, definitely, especially after a long season for sure. So,
Yeah.
um, what are your summer plans, I guess? And do you still plan to do hockey in the future, whether it's next year with UConn with the fifth year option, or somewhere else at another university, or going pro? Like, what's your plans with that, if you have any?
Yeah. So my plans this summer is to kind of just continue to train and like work out. I have a summer job lined up for when I get back home in May. But my plan is to continue hockey in the fall for another year. And I've decided I'm going to go back to Canada and play. So I'm going to do 1 year there at Ryerson, if you've ever heard of it. It's kind of like located like downtown Toronto. So I'm pretty excited.
That's awesome. What made you want to go back home and play hockey for your final year there instead of UConn?
Honestly, it was a really hard decision, but I'm excited to kind of be closer to home and like sort of just near my family and just friends from home.
And what's like the main differences between college hockey here in the US versus Canada from what you've seen before?
Um, Honestly, I think it's like a little bit more competitive here, I would say. But I'm excited to try out U Sports, which is the Canadian league.
That's awesome. Well, I
Mm.
wish you nothing but the best with that. But I kind of now want to transition and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and kind of work up all the way are where you are today with UConn and just talk about your experience with Connecticut. So you're from Unionville, Ontario. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
Yeah, so I'm from Unionville, and honestly, I had like a really great childhood growing up there. I started playing hockey in Markham, which is kind of just like a town right beside us. And I got really big into hockey because of my older sister, Jaime. I think just watching her play, like I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And so my parents ended up putting me in the sport like as soon as I was allowed. And also they played hockey. Like my mom was a figure skater and my dad was a goalie. And so I think they were happy when I when I finally decided that I wanted to play.
What made you not want to be a goalie? Is your dad just want to be the only goalie in the family?
Yeah, probably it's that. Honestly, I don't really love getting hit by pucks. So I'll stick with forward.
Yeah, talk about growing up with the older sister that played hockey as well, doing research on yourself. She also played for UConn
Mhm.
before you went there. So, what's it like having a sibling that also plays hockey, especially playing with a sibling in the collegiate level? Because that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, honestly, it was my freshman year was probably one of my favorite years just because it was cool seeing her because she was the captain of our team, so it was really cool seeing her like in her element and how she led. And I think just having someone that I could like go to and ask questions, just it was awesome. And I was really lucky in that sense.
Now, what was it like? Did that help your transition to college hockey? I know we're kind of digging into that a little bit,
Mhm.
but having an older sister on the team who was also the captain. Did she like boss you around a little bit? I'm just curious because I feel like she probably had to use that to her advantage at all.
um, Maybe a little bit, but nothing too like noticeable. She definitely made fun of me more than probably all the other freshmen, but I can take it, so it was fine.
Now, who was your favorite player growing up? Was it someone on the national team or was it an NHL player?
Honestly, for me, it was an NHL player. My family's we're pretty big like Toronto Maple Leafs fans, so the player that I always loved watching was Tyler Bozak. He was just like a solid center, and I guess because I'm forward, like I liked watching him play.
Yeah, he also won a cup with the Blues. I don't know. Was
Yeah,
that
yeah,
cool stuff
yeah,
to see that?
yeah, yeah. I watched him a little bit with that. We miss him in Toronto for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely one of the more underrated players from that era.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
Now, before UConn, you played for the Whitby Wolves in the PWHL. How did you get the opportunity to go to that league and play for that organization?
Yeah, so at the time before Whitby, I was playing for Vaughan, and our whole team that year, we were all just like looking to leave just to go for like midget and junior at like other organizations. And Jaime, my older sister, played at Whitby, and we knew the coaches and well and like how they coached. And when they offered me to play there, I said yeah. And so I was there in Whitby with that organization for about 3 years before
Yeah.
college.
Yeah, and talk about your experience with that organization. Like, what did you take away from your time there?
Yeah, honestly, I loved playing for Whitby. Kevin Schramm was my coach during my like junior years, and I think what I took most away from him and just that team was to just like work hard. He he was a screamer. Like if you were having a bad game, like he'd let you know. And I think what I loved most about him was his ability to kind of just like say it how it is, even when sometimes like I didn't want to hear it. So I would say that he definitely was one of the most memorable and one of the best coaches that I ever had, other than like my coaches now.
Yeah, and how'd you handle that type of coaching at such a young age? Just because not every player can handle a type of coach like that.
Yeah, honestly, it was hard, I think, at the time, but um, I knew that he did it for a reason. Like he just wanted me to be better. And off the ice, he was amazing. And I think just in the moment, he got a little heated. So sometimes it was hard to hear, but I needed to hear it.
Now, what's like your favorite memory you've ever had with Whitby when you look back on it now?
Um, there's like so many like games and tournaments I could say, but I think one of the biggest memories that will always stick out are just like the Wednesday night 9:45 practices that we would have every week. And at the time they were like the worst thing to go to, but it's kind of just funny like looking back and remembering how practices like would be that late on a school night. Like I lived pretty far from Whitby. Like I think I was about like 45 minutes to an hour. So I would get home at like we'd finish practice at like 11:30, 11:45, and like I get home at like 1:30. So it's just funny.
Yeah, and what time did you get up for school the next day? That must have been a short night.
Yeah, like like probably like 7:45, 8. It wasn't terrible, but it's just
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, for me, I had to get up at school like for like 6:15, 6:30. So that's I'm glad I
Oh
didn't have
God.
those late of a practices. That would not been easy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually I'm more players that I talk to have like early morning practices. At least that's what I had, like 7 a.m., 6 a.m., those type of practice. I
Oh
don't
really?
think, yeah, there's been a few late nighters, but like mostly from what my memory of youth hockey was like very early in the morning. So that's kind of cool that you got to do it like late at night.
Yeah. Yeah, we were always late.
Now, who are some of the players you got to play with when you were at Whitby that are currently playing D1 college hockey or played D1 college hockey?
Yeah, so I played with the McQuigg sisters, like Brooke and Rachel, Maggie McEachran, Michaela Maury, and also when I was in midget, I would get called up to like the junior games a few times. So I played with like Brie Colangelo, Emily Reed. So like that was kind of cool because they ended up playing at UConn too.
Yeah, and talk about your recruitment process with UConn. How did that go for yourself, and what made you want to go to that school versus other ones you might have looked at?
So for me, UConn was one of the first schools that I like started talking to, and I think a big reason for that was because of Jaime, like my older sister, who was already on the team, and like I kind of knew the coaches personally, sort of just like outside of recruiting because I would just come and watch their games, like when I was younger with my parents. But I would say that I like chose UConn because I just like knew the atmosphere of the team. Like I knew the culture that they valued. I loved the campus and the coaches. And so when Coach Mack offered me a spot, I couldn't say no, and I knew that it was the school for me.
Yeah, and what did your like older sister tell you about UConn before you got there? And like, has it lived up to the expectation that she told you about the school?
Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah, it has for sure. She was just like raved about her experiences, just like on the team, like with her teammates, and it was just cool. It was really fun to listen to.
Now, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey when you started out as a freshman? Was it the speed of the game, the physicality of the game, or just like the decision making you have to have when you have the puck on your stick?
For hockey wise, I would say decision making. I just like there's girls are so fast and they get on you so quick, and I think like a big adjustment was for me was realizing that like I had more time than I thought, because I would think that like girls would be on me so quick when because like they would, but in reality, like I had like a few extra seconds instead of just having to like throw the puck away, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And how'd you adapt to balancing both school and hockey at such a high level, especially at a university like UConn, where the academics can get pretty, there can be a lot of work, I guess, is the best way to I describe it. So,
Yeah, no, that was also a really big adjustment for me. Hockey just like takes up a really big part of your day, like, and with our season being pretty long, um, I just think like it took a toll on my body, I would say, but just finding that like median between like rest, eating, practice, games, along with school was just what you had to do, or what I did.
now talk about what it's like playing in Hockey East and just the competition you face every night. I think it's a conference that gets overlooked a lot. I think you saw it this year in the national tournament when only one team made it. So, what's it like from your perspective playing in that conference? And do you think Hockey East gets a little underrated sometimes?
Yeah, I think we get a little I think we are a little underrated at times. I think it's a fast league. I think the teams are good. I think all 10 or 11 teams are good. And I wish we got another seed in the tournament. That was a little disappointing.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about that coming up. But I want to start off actually talking about your freshman year for a little bit, because in that season you lost to Boston College in the quarterfinals. So my question is, what did you learn from that series, and how did that series help you heading into your sophomore, junior, and senior years of college hockey? Just because I feel like your class really learned a lot from that series loss.
Yeah, well, first off, I learned that I didn't want to lose in the quarters again. My next couple years. Um, I remember that year BC being good, but at the same time, like it is just like the worst feeling to lose in that quarter, like the first round of playoffs. And I think after that loss, like just seeing our seniors at the time so like upset and sad that it was their last game, like I think we all had the point to like come back that next year and really just like play and do well for them.
Yeah, and talk about like that your sophomore year and what you took away from that series against BC heading into your sophomore year, because obviously you made it all the way to the Hockey East finals that season. So I guess like when did you start to realize that team was special, and how was it like? How did your class, I guess, develop from that series loss to the Hockey East playoffs? Just because I feel like there was a lot of development from a lot of your players in that class in that time period.
Yeah, so I would say after the loss against BC, like my freshman year, like as I said, like we wanted to come back and make a difference and be like a competitor in the league. And I think everyone in my class just kind of took on like more of a role, I would say. Uh, like I remember that summer, like I remember us all coming back, like with just like better numbers, like for testing, like just being like more ready and more fit. And I think like the difference between freshman and sophomore year is so different because freshman year, like you come in and you're like a baby, like I really didn't know what to expect. I wasn't exactly sure how it was going to go, but my sophomore year, like I knew like everything that was going to happen, and I just think that we were more ready that year, or I was, and my class was for sure.
Yeah, and in your sophomore year, you got revenge against Boston College. You lost the first game, but then proceeded to win the next two games with only allowing one goal. So, what was it like to win that series and move on to the semifinals for the first time in your collegiate career?
Honestly, it was so exciting. That series is one like a really a really memorable series for me and like my class, and it was cool because getting to that like hockey semifinals and finals at Merrimack was like also really memorable because I remember like we had like a banquet, like we got like sweaters, we got gift cards, and just overall it was such a cool experience, and I was really fortunate enough to be a part of that team that year.
I have a question. Why does Hockey East not do like a host for the women's semifinals and championship game? They used to do that, but since the pandemic, that hasn't happened. Is it going to come back, or is it always just going to be in the host teams like rank for the championship and semifinal games?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I think last year it was because of COVID, and I'm assuming this year maybe because of COVID. But I hope next year that I hope that it's like a host team.
Mhm. Yeah, no, especially because I know they did it for the men's side this year. So I was like, I feel like that would be cool for to do it for the women's side as well. Just
Mm.
because I think for like TV reasons and stuff, because there was two great semifinal games that took place, and you could only really watch one just because there was another one going on at the same time. So that's why I personally think there should at least be some sort of host facility for those playoff games.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I also think like just having an arena that's like neutral between like the two like teams playing or the final four teams playing would make a difference as well.
But talk about that first year, I guess, semifinal experience in at Merrimack. What was that experience like for you? You beat UNH in the semifinals, but unfortunately lost to Northeastern in the final game. What did you take away from that first like experience and kind of that unique semifinal championship experience that you had in your collegiate career?
I remember it being like a really quick turnaround. Like I remember the semifinal, like we had the banquet that Friday. I think the Saturday we played the semis and we won, which was really exciting. And that Sunday, that Sunday we came off such a high from the Saturday win, and going into Sunday we were so excited and so like amped. But at the same time, I think our bodies were like a little more tired than we had expected. So ultimately, like we lost that game, which was pretty tough and like pretty sad to look back on. But again, like that Final Four experience, like in the Hockey East, was really cool and a memory that I'll always cherish.
Now, in your junior season, you had to deal with a lot of challenges because of the pandemic. How did you and your teammates handle those challenges? Because I was told by Danica that none of you guys got COVID throughout that season, and you were like one of the few Hockey East teams that could say that.
Yeah. So obviously, like every team had challenges with the pandemic. Like even though we didn't have a positive COVID test or case, we still had challenges. But for us, I think we just tried to like stick together and come to practice every day with like the best possible attitude. I think that like with so many things going on around us in the world, it was nice to just like come to the rink and just play and not really think about anything else. And looking back on last year and just like everything that we did, like I think I'm really proud of the way that everyone handled it.
And when heading into that season, you were named the assistant captain of the team where you had that title for your junior and senior year. How cool was it to be named assistant captain, and what type of leadership did you want to bring to the team? Were you more of a vocal leader, lead by example, or did you and the rest of your captain teammates try to like come up with like a leadership style plan?
Yeah. So when I was an A, or it's just like an honor. Like I was really honored to be it. I think wearing a letter on your jersey is pretty meaningful and exciting. And I knew that like going into my junior year and senior year, like I didn't want to like let anyone down, like whether it was my teammates, like my coaches. Uh, and I say that like I wanted to be the type of person that like people weren't afraid to come to, like if anything was wrong or like if anything happened. And and I would say that like I'm more of like a lead by example type of person, I guess. Like I'm not the loudest in the room, but like I just want to make people feel like valued and heard, I guess.
And who was the vocal leader of the team? I'm curious for your junior and senior year. Was it one of the captains or was it someone else?
There were a bunch of players, but I would say that like I would give it to Nat just because she has a way with words and she can really like grab the attention of everyone in a room, especially when we need it most.
Now, talk a little bit more about your junior season, especially during the regular season, because your team had a really solid regular season. You beat Boston College again, winning that game on the road, which is not an easy task to do. And then, unfortunately, you ran into a really good Northeastern team in the semifinals and got eliminated. So, what did you take away from your junior year and what it turned out to be?
Um, Looking back on my junior year, I just wanted to like make the most of every situation and to just like enjoy the little things. I felt like each game was a gift, and obviously like I wish we had made it to the finals, but I was proud that we won in the semis against BC. Yeah, against BC. And although we lost to Northeastern that year, like I was really proud of our team regardless.
Yeah, you honestly, I think, and I'm not trying to say this because I'm a UConn fan, but I thought you guys gave them like one of their toughest games that season. Obviously, and Duluth gave them really tough games, but I thought UConn gave them I thought you guys gave them a really solid game that not many teams have had the chance to do against Northeastern. So that's why I was like, kudos to you guys because I thought UConn had a chance in that game, and unfortunately, a really good shorthanded goal kind of ended that. But it was just if that game went to overtime, anything could have happened, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I agree. They're a good team. They have good goaltending and they have players who know how to score, but we almost had them.
Mhm. Now, heading into your senior year, what was like your goal and expectation for yourself and for your team? And obviously, your team had a historical season. So, like, at what point during that regular season were you like, this team is definitely a really special team that can make some noise in the playoffs?
So for this year, I really had a good feeling about our team like before our season even started. Coming into this year, like we knew we were going to have a really experienced team with Nat and the twins coming back and having like 2 grad transfers from Mercyhurst and Providence, Summer and Chloe. And I just had a really good feeling. Like it was my 4th year. Like I knew what I wanted to bring to the table, and I knew what like Nat and all the returners wanted to as well. And I think we all came into this year like with the intention of winning it all.
Now, how nice was it to have fans back in the rink after not having that experience your junior year?
Honestly, it was awesome. I think that's one of the things that like you take for granted when like you're just playing a normal game. And I think having like all of our family members back, like other athletes around UConn and the campus and just like other people, like it was nice just like having everyone there and having like a loud and energetic atmosphere.
Especially at Freitas because like it's such a small rink. So like when like it's like halfway filled, it looks really full, and you can hear it can bring there's a lot of noise that can happen, I guess, when that happens. So I think that's what makes your rink kind of unique and special.
No, yeah, I love playing at the Fritas. I know it's a little smaller, but I love it.
Mhm. What's your favorite chant that the crowd does?
Probably just like the classic, like Yukon Husky one.
The one that's like UConn
Yeah,
Husky. Yeah,
yeah. Vicky Harkness's dad always starts it.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's always my favorite chant too. So, but I hope hopefully the band can go to one of your games. I feel like I haven't seen the band at any of your games. I feel like that'll be pretty cool in such a small rink to have them there.
Yeah, I think we had them my freshman and sophomore year a few times, but I guess just with COVID, it hasn't worked out this year.
Yeah, well, hopefully next year. So I'll
Mhm.
cross my fingers for that one. But
Mhm.
another thing you got to do this year was you got to play non-conference games. What was that like, having that experience back? And how beneficial do you think those non-conference games are for your team?
Honestly, it's so fun, like playing out of conference because you kind of get to travel to different places, like play at different ranks. And I think it's so beneficial just because you're playing someone new that like you've never played before. And obviously like the freshmen and sophomore, like they might not be as like they might not know as much like the teams that we play in Hockey East. So it's just kind of cool to like get a different experience with other teams.
Now, your team was ranked for the first time since 2009 this year. So I have to ask, how did it feel to be ranked this year when it felt like it wasn't going to happen in the first half of the season, but then it finally did in January? And you have to tell me your perspective of the story of how your team found out in practice, because I heard it and I thought it was awesome, but I want you to tell the story because I thought that was pretty cool.
Okay, yeah. First of all, it was so exciting. It's cool to be ranked. Like it really is. Um, there definitely is like a little bit of added pressure, like when you get ranked, but sort of just like because like once you're in it, like you don't want to get knocked out. So kind of just like sticking to like what you've been doing and not thinking about it, is kind of what we did to stay in the top 10. And sorry, what was the other question?
What was like the story of? I heard there was this funny story of like how your team found out you were ranked for the first time in practice. One of your former teammates was there and like found out before.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was wondering if you could tell the
Um,
story about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it was a Monday. We on Mondays we have lift and practice, and Monday practices are always like the worst. Like they're so hard. And so we had a former teammate who was just staying with us for the week, Savannah Buzai.
Mhm.
Boozy, what we call her. So anyway, she like came running in and kind of just told us, and we were all like, "What?" So we all kind of freaked out, and it was exciting.
Now, one game I want to talk to you about, like from the regular season, was the Nutmeg Classic final against Quinnipiac. Obviously, the game didn't go your way, but I really thought what impressed me about the game was how you competed with a really good Quinnipiac side and almost won that trophy. So, from your perspective, talk about that game and what you took away from it, and how'd you use that game heading into the playoffs? Just because I feel like that was a defining moment from your regular season from your team that really felt, which really showed me as a fan, like they can compete with some of the top teams in Hockey East in the playoff time.
Yeah, Quinnipiac's a good team. We unfortunately lost that game. I think it was either was it 2-1 or 3-1,
Ooh, I
but
remember
regardless,
too.
yeah, but regardless, we it was exciting because like we know that we can play with those types of like with those teams and teams that are higher ranked. So it was kind of the fact that like we gave them a run for their money and or like that we gave like a really good game was impactful to like us as a team as well, because the whole year we tried to keep telling ourselves like we're a good team, like we deserve to be where we are, like, you know, if that makes sense, like we're not an underdog anymore, like we are a really good team. And I think that kind of helped with that mentality.
Now let's talk about this year's playoffs, because in the first round you beat Boston University. Talk about that game, what it meant to your team, especially since it was a lot of your players' last game at Frady's, and just talk about getting that win against a really solid BU side, because even though their record, I guess, indicated that they were the sixth seed, in my opinion, I thought they were a much better team than the record indicated. So talk about that game from your perspective, getting that win, especially because BU scored early in that game. So you had to basically, you were playing down a goal already to start off the game. So talk about what you learned from that experience as well, playing, being down, and how you used that game, I guess, heading into the semifinals.
Yeah, so during the game, like when they scored the first goal, I think all of us were kind of like, okay, like we kind of like had a little moment to be like, okay, not a big deal, like it's okay. Because I'm pretty sure they scored like the first, like I want to say the first 30 seconds, maybe the first minute.
15 seconds.
15, okay, yeah, you know. So I think like everyone just had like a quick moment being like, it's all good. But at the same time, like I personally knew, like I was like, we're fine, like it's fine, like I'm not worried, like we're a good enough team that we can come back from this. So winning that game was exciting because we were down like 1-0 so early on in the game, and I don't remember what the score was, but winning was exciting, and in all honesty, it was a relief to just like get past the quarterfinal round and really like start thinking about the semis.
Yeah, and what emotions were you feeling after that game, just because like it was your last game at Frady's? What was you
Yeah,
probably going to be, I guess?
yeah, honestly, it was really bittersweet, like for me. Obviously, it was a relief that we won. Like I was so happy that we won. But at the same time, like it was just so sad, like thinking that, you know, like we were never gonna have another game at the Fridas. Like the Fridas has been my home like the past 4 years pretty much. Um, and it was really nice because after the game, like a lot of the seniors and like super seniors sort of just had like one last moment together, and all the fans just started like clapping for us. So that was an exciting moment for me.
Yeah, and that was it cool for yourself to have that moment caught on camera? I don't know if you saw that by any chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. It was it's a good moment to look back on.
Now, you then went on to play Vermont in the semifinals. So, talk about going on the road and being a really solid Vermont team that gave your team a lot of trouble in the regular season,
Mm.
because they brought your team to overtime in that home game in like November, I believe, and then in January when you went up to Vermont, you guys split that series and they gave you two really tough games. So, talk about what that one meant to you going up to Vermont, beating them on the road in a really hostile environment, and heading into your third Hockey East, or your second Hockey East championship game.
Yeah, so we knew going into it that Vermont was a good team. We knew that they were going to play hard, and they were going to make it hard for us to win, to like make it to the finals, because they have good goaltending, they have fast players who can transition and score. But at the same time, like we knew our game plan going into it, and honestly, like it was such a fun game to be a part of. Like as you were saying, like it was pretty intense. Like there were so many people in the stands watching. Like I think someone said there was about like 1,500 people, and that was like one of the biggest crowds that I've ever played in front of. Uh, but the rink and like barn atmosphere, the energy was just like so loud and fast. And when we like started to get up, like it was really exciting. And when the buzzer finally went, like that was one of my favorite moments, I would say, at UConn.
Yeah, and obviously your goalie, Megan Warner, played outstanding throughout that postseason run. Talk about what she meant for your team this year, and obviously during that playoff run, because it was kind of unexpectedly how she had to start in the playoffs with Samantha going down with a tough injury.
Yeah, no, Meg played amazing. I'm really confident with her in net as well, and I knew that she was going to give Vermont their players a run for their money for sure,
And made
and
some
she
big
did.
saves too.
Oh my gosh, yeah, she made like some highlight reel ones.
Now, you then played Northeastern in the Hockey East Championship game. I guess my first question about this game was what made this game different against Northeastern in the Hockey East playoffs versus the other three or the other two that you played against them in your junior and sophomore years.
Yeah, no. So we knew this one was going to be a little different, um, because like we knew that we could win. Like we'd played them in the past. I've played them the past 4 years. Like I knew that we could win. And I think losing to them in like the previous 2 years, like during the semis and finals, um, we just like we had a lot to prove in that game. And I think that was where a lot of our like excitement and momentum was going towards, because we wanted to win.
And unfortunately, you lost in that game, 3-1, I believe. So, talk about your perspective from that game and what you kind of took away from it, because you got that goal in the first period by Morgan Wabeck, and then it seemed like Northeastern kind of figured out a way to get back in that game, and then obviously scored 2 goals in the second period to get the lead. And unfortunately, just your team couldn't find a way to beat Frankel, and that ended your season. So, from your perspective, what did you take away from that loss?
Obviously at the time, like it's pretty devastating. Like I think everyone was pretty sad and upset, especially for like us seniors and graduates. But as sad as we were, like I couldn't be mad. Like all I can really do is celebrate like the season that we had and the run that we did have, and really just like cherish the moments and memories that we made throughout this whole year.
What emotions were you feeling after the game, knowing that that was probably your final game with UConn?
Well, at the time, like we were pretty hopeful. Like we had a little bit of hope thinking that like we were gonna maybe make it into that like top 11, like that tournament. But yeah, no, at the same time it was sad. Like it was definitely sad. But again, like being at UConn has been awesome and I wouldn't change it.
Now, what will you overall take away from your UConn hockey experience when you look back on it now? I'm only saying hockey experience because you're technically still a student at the university, so I can't say whole UConn experience just yet.
Honestly, like everything, playing UConn hockey and being a Husky has been like everything and more these past 4 years. From the memories made with like my teammates, like just a range of all my teammates, the lessons and like life skills that I've learned from my coaches, to some of the biggest games that we've played. I honestly wouldn't trade anything for my experiences at UConn, and I really hope that I'm able to take everything that I've learned here and kind of just apply it to wherever I go in the future.
Now, the new rink is supposed to be coming in January 2023, so do you plan to visit the new rink, and what do you think it should be called?
Of course, I plan to visit. I am so excited to come and cheer in the stands with my teammates. But honestly, I don't know. I maybe Frida's 2.0. Whoever invested last, I'm
Mhm.
okay with anything.
Well, I was talking to Natalie, and I said it should be called the Snodgrass Center, and she was very much against it, but I feel like you would probably be for that.
I'd be good with the Snodgrass Center.
So, or she said it should be like named after like a legendary UConn women's hockey player, like Jacqueline, like someone like that. She was telling me. So maybe I don't know. We may have to dig in through the history books and find out like some really solid UConn women's hockey player that no
Yeah,
one.
honestly, Jacqueline Hawk would be a good name. I'd like that.
So, but I don't know. Hopefully, I feel it's probably gonna be named after someone who like donates a ton of money to it or donated a lot of money to it, but or it'll be like named after some like advertisement from UConn, but I'm not quite sure yet.
I know, I'm excited to see.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions just to get to know you a little bit more off the ice. So first question is, what ice cream flavor at the dairy bar is the best flavor in your opinion?
In my opinion, just like a classic chocolate, maybe with some like brownie fudge pieces in there, but chocolate for me.
Yeah, mine's probably the chocolate milkshake. I don't know if that's considered ice cream, but I just like it. I think it's a good kind of mix of everything that I'm
Yeah.
looking for. So now, what pizza is the best pizza on campus? Now, the consensus from the men's team is Blaze, but I'm curious if the women's team has a different opinion than that.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to say Blaze as well. I like Sergeant Peps too, but I would say Blaze.
I would say Wellington personally, but I know that's a little bit more off campus.
I don't think I've ever been there actually.
Oh, it's really good. It's probably my favorite pizza place I've ever been to be honest with you. But it's like it's in Wellington, so which is like the town next to Stores. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a drive, but I still think it's worth it in my opinion for once in a while.
Okay, noted. We'll try that one time.
Now, if since we're in the food topic, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
I would go Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's so funny, and I think we'd have a really good lunch.
Now, obviously, have you ever met Jonathan the mascot, the dog, the 14th, and what is he like in person? I'm just curious because I haven't had the chance to see him before.
Oh, he's so friendly. He's so friendly, and he likes to be pet. So he's a really good mascot for UConn.
That's awesome. Has he had the chance to see any women's hockey games recently? Because I know he went to one. I think I saw him at the BU game in November.
I think he has a few. He came to like wish us good luck before he went to Vermont for the semifinals game, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah, that's honestly the best good luck charm. Like
Yeah.
no school could have that type of mascot to do that. So I think that's a good omen right there.
Mhm.
Now, what is your biggest pet peeve?
This was hard, but I am gonna say slow walkers. I can't do it. Can't do
Mine's
it
slow
this long.
drivers. So it's
Okay, yeah.
the same thing, I think. So
Okay. Yeah, pretty close.
now, who is the funniest on the team?
I would say Catherine Thurman. Or Nat. I think Nat makes me laugh too.
Who has the best social media on the team?
Oh, social media.
Like whose Instagram photos you think like stick out to you the most, I guess.
Um, Maybe like I would say Danica. Maybe. Yeah.
Now, if you had to pick any teammate to cook a meal for you, which teammate would you pick?
I'm gonna go with Ainsley Svedek.
Now, who has the best style on the team? Pre-game style and then on the ice style as well.
Ooh. I'm gonna go. I would say Danica again or Kat.
Hmm.
I'd say Kat or Danica.
Did you agree with the UConn Hockey Podcast Best Style of the Year award with Kat Stockdale? I'm
Yeah, I
assuming
did agree with
since you
that.
vote for that, so I was curious because that was a tough award to decide, but I feel like we made the right decision on that one.
No, yeah, you definitely did. She's good.
Now, back to some hockey questions now. First one is, what were your thoughts on Cameron Wong and Tia Chan's going to the Olympics with Team China, and how excited are you to see them in the World Championships again with China as well?
Yeah, honestly, I was so proud of both Cam and Tia and Leah Lem. I kind of know Leah also, as well, but just seeing them like representing their country and also representing UConn was really amazing to see. I was proud of them.
Now, what should be done to grow women's hockey more, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I would just say like more social media presence and TV time. Um, I don't think that it's people like don't want to or won't watch women's hockey. I think people would watch it more if it were available on like a larger network like ESPN or Sportsnet just more often.
Yeah, and obviously ESPN signed that deal with Hockey East. How beneficial do you think that's going to be for the league?
I think so great. I think it'll be awesome. It'll give a chance for Hockey East players to be seen.
Now, what advice would you give younger players who are trying to pursue a career in college hockey?
I would say biggest advice is to enjoy the moment, really. It goes by so fast. I'm a senior looking back on my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and it's crazy to think that 4 years goes by that fast, but it really does. So I would just say to enjoy it.
Now, do you have any shout outs you want to give to your teammates, family members, friends? I know we mentioned a few people throughout the interview, but feel free to shout them out again or shout someone else out that you didn't mention throughout the interview.
Yeah, no, honestly, I'll shout out my parents just for everything that they've done through with my hockey career. I'm going to shout them out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dani, for coming on. I really appreciate it. It means so much to myself, and it's been a pleasure talking with you, and I wish you nothing but the best for your future endeavors with Ryerson and after Ryerson as well. And as a fan, I just want to say thank you so much for what you did for the program. It was awesome to see the success that the women's team had this year and just the growth of the program. And a lot of it has to be contributed to what you did for the team and what your senior class did. So as from a fan perspective, thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Now, one thing